So last night, when Brad was shutting the chickens, he comes in, he says, there's a weird bird in the coop. Oh, like, what do you mean a weird bird in the coop? He said, there's a weird bird in the coop. So he closed it in there. He said, maybe it's just trying to get warm. It was negative something last night. So this morning, he says to me, it's still in there. So I'm going to investigate. It's some rain. Okay, turn it around. They think I'm bringing a treat. All right, let's see where this bird is. Hi, girls. Oh God, there it is. Oh, baby. It's okay. That's a starling. What is that starling doing in here? What are you doing in here? Are starlings supposed to be here right now? Come on out. One of the best things we ever did was install this frost-free line for the coop. So I can fill the chickens' water even when it's below 0 out. Right, baby? Yeah. Oh, you thirsty? Can't wait, huh? It's so dark down here. Hi, flower friends. It's Nicole from Flower Hill Farm. So I was so concerned about that bird. I looked it up. Starlings do migrate south, especially in northern New York. They don't really like to hang out anywhere where it gets below 40 degrees, and they usually leave in flocks and roost together, sometimes up to 1 million birds at once. So it makes sense that that bird is looking for other birds, but I don't know if it's gonna survive in our climate right now. It was 5 degrees below 0 Fahrenheit this morning, and that's definitely not, I mean, it obviously survived that. I have water and food in the coop, so if it stays in there, I suppose it'll make it till spring, but I don't know. So anyway, that's enough about that. Today's video is all about starting Ranunculus, and I have a series of epic failures when it comes to Ranunculus. Let's talk about it. Failure number 1. So the first time I ordered Ranunculus, it was a few seasons ago, and I ordered it on a home garden website, and it arrived late. You ever get those emails saying, we're sorry, your shipment is delayed? Of course you do nowadays, but a couple years ago, this was not a normal thing. So I had a delayed shipment. I don't know if they were out of stock, restocking, anyway, and it was only like 15 corms. So, and that's what they're called, Ranunculus are called corms. So, and they look like little spiders. I'll show you in a minute. So they showed up at late May, almost June. So by the time I even got them, it was like the time they should be blooming. And then when I put them in the ground, they grew about 4 to 6 inches tall, and I think I got 3 blooms. They were all red. They were all kind of single petal too. They weren't the beautiful Ranunculus that you think of with the multi-petals. So that was the first failure. Failure 2, it was last year, and I had 100 and I think it was 120. I think I had 4 bags of 30 corms each. Anyway, I bought them on clearance. They were not from a reputable supplier. They were from the shelves at Walmart, which is not always a bad thing. Might have been Lowe's, can't remember. It was a box store. So I bought these on clearance, and I sprouted them in crates. Did well, did fantastic. I had growth, the green growth. The growth got about 4 inches tall. It was a nice day in April. I started to shift the crates outside to harden them off, put them all out in front of my garage, and I look outside, and what do I see? The 3 musketeers. Those are my 3 brown chickens. The 3 musketeers were in the crates, kicking and digging and eating. They destroyed it. So that was failure number 2. Now here we are, it's 2021, and I'm giving it a go for the 3rd time because the 3rd time is the charm, am I right? Okay, so here's what I'm doing this year. And for this video, I'm teaming up with 2 of my local flower farmers who have successfully grown Ranunculus in the past. They're gonna be sharing with us little bits of their wisdom. Let's meet them right now.
Hey guys, it's Tabitha Houle from Houle Flower Farm, located in Little Falls, New York, and we are Zone 5A. And I just wanted to share with you today how we go about planting our Ranunculus.
Hi everybody, my name's Erin Cole, and I own Little Ann's Flowers, which is in Canajoharie, New York, Zone 5B. was excited that Nicole asked me to talk about Ranunculus today because they're my favorite flower. I don't think there's anything remotely close to being as beautiful as Ranunculus.
And if Tabitha and Erin look familiar to you, they were part of my Flower Farmers After the Frost series. I did a 2-part series talking about our seasons and what we did right, what we did wrong, and what we were hoping to do for the future. So if they look familiar to you, that is why. So we'll be hearing from them a little bit throughout this whole video. So it actually took me a little bit of a while to prep for this video because there's so many things going on. So I don't know why this mister's here. Don't need that. Put that back here. So I have my giant thing of Pro Mix pre-moistened. I just dumped a bunch. Let me grab it. So this is about halfway full of Pro Mix. I used about 3 gallons of water to moisten it. It is not dripping wet. It is nowhere near as wet as you need it for soil blocks. It's just moistened Pro Mix. So this is what I'm gonna be using today. So I already have some pre-soaked corms, and I'll talk about that in just a minute. First though, what am I growing this year? Or what am I attempting to grow, I should say. And that's multiple different kinds of Ranunculus. Let's talk about them. So here are my bags of Ranunculus, and I ordered these from Edney Glockner. So let's take a look. This is 250 of the Amandine pastel mix. This is a corm size 5 to 7 centimeters. This is a butterfly Helios. This is a #1 size corm. It's a lot bigger, you'll see in a second. This is an Amandine mix, not pastel. So this one's pastel. This was just Amandine. I'm gonna put a picture up on the screen of all of these. This is 250 of La Belle mixed. And then this last package is Super Greens, 5 to 7 centimeters as well. And I also have, looking around here, oh here. I also have some corms from Jake, the wholesale grower, and I believe these are also butterfly. So I think I have 10 corms from Jake in here, and we'll be taking a look at those today as well. So let's head over to Tabitha to find out when you should be ordering your corms in the first place.
So we order our ranunculus in the spring, believe it or not. So when things are blooming is really the time that you should be thinking about ordering your crop for the next year. So we order them in the spring, and then they will arrive or ship in the fall. So they typically come in a brown paper bag, just like this. And so when we get them, we store them in a dry, cool place. So that place happens to be our basement for us. It hangs out around 50 to 55 degrees. It's also where we store our dahlias. So I just put them down there in the box that they came in. I don't do anything different. The first time I ordered them, I actually put in like peat moss inside the brown bag. Don't recommend doing that, or vermiculite. You don't need to do it. It just adds an extra layer of mess when you want to go through the pre-soaking process.
Okay, so like Tabitha said, I came over here because I realized there's a light right above here, and the light in this section's not that bad, which is perfect because this is where I set up a lot of my grow stations. So like Tabitha said, once you get them, you put them in a dry place, and hers is her basement. Mine is also my basement. Hers is a little colder than mine. My basement is 60 degrees right now, so it's a little bit warmer, but these have had no problem just sitting here on the shelf. So one of the things you want to do when you're starting ranunculus is you want to soak the corms. And Erin is going to tell us a little bit more about that.
I will soak them, and this goes for anemones too, in room temperature water for about 4 hours. They say you should aerate the water. I don't do that. I never have. I usually just dump the water out like halfway through and then fill it back up. I don't even know if that's necessary, but I do it.
Tabitha uses a similar method, but she does use a trickle, and she actually has a good trick for it. Let's hear from her.
This year I've been doing it in succession. So I've already done a couple hundred. And what I do is I just take a flower bucket, one of those black flower buckets. You could use any kind of bucket. And I also take one of those mesh bags that you get when you get tulips or say gladiolas. And I'll put in the same one variety per bag. So I will dump in my corms, and then I put a little like name tag in there so I know what it is. And I can put like 4 or 5 different bags in a bucket. And then I take that bucket and I put it in my bathtub, because some people say that you should have like an aerator, like one of those fish tank bubblers. I don't have one, I don't have fish. So I just put it in my bathtub so that I can keep the faucet running just ever so slightly, just so that there's movement and the water doesn't get stagnant. And if there's any overflow, it's not a big deal. It just goes down the drain. So after 3.5 hours, I check on them. And if they're plump, I take them out and I begin the pre-sprouting process. I don't leave them in for 10 hours, 24 hours like some people do. You really just need to be careful that you don't leave them in there too long where they're going to rot. You just want them to plump up a little bit.
Okay, so what I ended up doing is I did go to the pet store, just my local pet store, but it's also on Amazon. The link is in the description below. I went ahead and bought a small fish tank pump. It was very inexpensive. I think it was $18, and it sits on the side of a flower bucket, and it will pump the water to aerate because, like the girls said, there is a reason you do that, and that's to prevent any sort of rot or disease, and the corms will actually super double in size. It's really amazing, the difference. Let's take a look at the difference. So this is a corm, a butterfly corm that has not been soaked. This was soaked for about 4 hours. You can see they plump right up. Same thing with one of these other little ones. This has not been soaked yet. This has been soaked. They actually look like, so I was showing these on a live feed the other day. People were saying they look like little baby mandrakes, like from Harry Potter. Other people were saying they look like dahlia tubers. Some people say octopus, some say spiders. So they're definitely a little bit of an alien looking like corm, but these ugly looking corms produce the most beautiful flowers. Okay, so I'm ducking down here so you guys can see the table and me at the same time. So the way that I soaked these was I used one of my floral buckets. I ended up getting the fish pump, and I used one of my organza bags that I use to cover the dahlias with. Any sort of mesh bag will work. And then I used one of these. This is a garden marker on a plant label. It's a waterproofed. I just got a big package of these garden markers. I'm actually gonna give one away. So if you comment on this video, I will be giving one of these garden markers away. So if you can look, that was soaking for probably 4.5 hours, and it doesn't look like anything. It's a waterproof marker. I'm so excited that I finally took the time, because they're a little bit more on the expensive side for a marker, but woo, they work. So if you comment on this video, like it, subscribe, you're entered into a drawing. I'm gonna give one away. So I'm so excited. I love giving things away. It's like my favorite thing to do. Okay, so these ones are on the smaller side. This is the labelle, and I'm gonna go ahead and put them right in 72 plug trays. And that is something that I'm gonna do because I'm going to not put these out in the field for another 6 weeks or so. So we're under about 18 inches to 2 feet of snow. I do have low tunnels to build. I cannot build them right now because we're under that much snow. So they're gonna stay in these 72 plug trays a little bit longer than I would like. So you can, in other climates where you have workable soil right now, you can pre-sprout these indoors for 2 weeks and then put them right into the ground if your climate allows. So Erin talks a little bit more about the hardiness of these flowers.
In the past, I used a low caterpillar tunnel to keep them protected. This year, I have a high tunnel. But I think if you're in a slightly warmer climate, you probably don't even need any of that. Maybe just some heavy mulching would keep them protected enough. They're extremely cold hardy, even more so than I think than what most people say. Generally, my time frame is starting them the middle of February and planting them out the beginning of March. However, just because I think they are hardier than that, this year I started some the beginning of January and planted them out middle of January, and then I'm starting more 1st of February, and we'll get them out the middle of February. I think next year I'll probably do a round in the fall and a round in the spring. So just kind of try out different time frames for your area and see what works. I have some that are out right now that have gotten down to like 10 degrees and they're fine. So they just like the cold. They like growing in the cold. Last year, our spring was extremely cold and then went extremely warm in a matter of a month, so we only got maybe 3 weeks out of them. So just trying to get them in a little earlier to get more blooms out of them.
These ones are already soaked, but I'm gonna get another couple of bags ready to soak. I'm gonna do 2 different varieties. So I'm not gonna start them all right now. I'm starting some right now. I'll start more in a couple of weeks, and then 2 weeks after that, I'll start my final. But if I don't start them now this week, there is 0 chance that I will have any flowers available for Mother's Day. So on the label, I counted out 72 corms. So these 72 corms are going to fill up this tray. Now on the butterfly, since these are larger, they really don't fit in the 72, and I don't want to leave them in there. I mean, look at this. Look at that. Like, it's not, it would take up 2 72s. So I had saved these. This was it salvia? Yeah, I purchased some annual salvia last year, and look how perfect it is for these giant butterflies. So I have this, and this was coleus. So I have these, which is 24, so I soaked 24 of the butterflies. So that's the different method. You could also use just a flat tray. So you could put a layer of Pro Mix on here, lay out your corms a little bit apart. You don't really need a lot of space if you're just pre-sprouting them, and then cover them up just a little bit, and then allow them to pre-sprout for 2 weeks. So I'm gonna be using the 72 plug tray and these 12 packs. So I'm gonna count out 72 each. Ugh. Okay, so here is my bag. First thing I'm gonna do is put the label in the bag, so I know which kind they are, and count out 72-ish of these. Super greens, same thing, 72. Pastel, 72. My dog tried to eat it. Blooper, what you do? What are you doing? Come on. Say hello. You cannot eat these. Okay. To the water. Okay, so this is my flower bucket. I had to move over here because I don't have any more outlets over there where I was. So the fish pump needs obviously electricity. So, and all you have to do is plug it in. There's no on and off switch. So I'm not gonna plug it in yet. So you're supposed to fill it up to a certain line here. And here's the pump. Super easy. It came basically assembled. I had to put this little black piece on here, this little black piece on here. I had to open this up right here and just put the filter. We really don't need a filter. We're not working a fish tank, but it comes with a filter. So anyway, also the filter is wrapped in a plastic bubble. I didn't know that when I first got it. There's elephants upstairs again. And when I turned the pump on, this like popped off and the plastic was like flying out. Anyway, you have to remove the plastic around the filter, just FYI. Okay, so this just slides right on. This sits on the edge of the floral bucket. You'll notice that there's a little bit of an angle. You see that? So I found a Sharpie marker and I put it right there and it sits perfectly level. So, Sharpie secrets, don't tell anyone. Okay, so all I did, now there's a line right here they have to fill the water to. If you fill the water to here before you put your corms in, the water's gonna rise up too high. So I did not do that. So now I'm going to put my corms in like so. It didn't go up so much, so I have to add water. So now I'm adding water up to the fill line, and this water shouldn't be too hot or freezing cold. It should be room temperature water. And you do not have to have a pump, but I'll link a video below that Bear Mountain Farms did a couple of years ago talking specifically about why oxygen is a good idea for when you're soaking your corms. It really does help oxygenate the water and feed those tubers, because those tubers is what is going to be feeding your flowers. So the link is below to their video. They get into a more scientific background about why the oxygen is a good idea, but like Erin and Tabitha said, not necessary. And Tabitha, I love her method. Put it in the bathtub and let the water run and let it trickle over, But I can't do that here because I don't know if you guys know my history. I have a well and the well is known to go dry. So I don't want to have my water running for 4 hours. For an $18 expense, I'm able to use this over and over and over again and not be concerned about the amount of water that I'm wasting. I'm gonna plug it in. Come on. Ta-da! Oops, I accidentally plugged the heat mat in. Wrong plug. Okay, where is it? Where is it? Here it is. Here it is. Okay, so all it's doing is sucking in air and bringing it up and letting it back in. So it's creating this flow of water, which creates oxygen in the water, which then the oxygen sucks up into those tubers for life. That's it. I'm gonna let this sit for 4 hours, but let's go work with the corms that I've already soaked. Okay, now I've showed you this already, but this is how big the corm is after it soaks. And this is the butterfly one, so it's a little larger. So let's do that first. Let's work with the larger ones, which means I've got to get my soil up here. So I'm going to fill these with soil. When I say fill them, I don't mean fill them. I mean put some soil in the bottom, put the corm in, and then cover them up. I'm using a flap underneath these 12 packs. I'll put them this way because they have holes on the bottom, and I don't want soil all over the place. So I'm going to be putting in some soil and then putting in the corms. Let's do it. I don't want a ton in the bottom because these corms are quite large. The dirt smells so good. It just smells good. I really like it. I'm putting about a 1/4 cup of soil into each one of these little holes. Just enough to cover the bottom. Move it out of the way. Good job, boobies. Like some of these are massive, so I'm gonna go ahead. Wow, they're filling it up perfectly. This one looks like a crab. So if you're close to a time where you can actually put these out, I feel like I could split this one. I'm doing it. I'm doing it. Oh my God. Okay, so I just split that one. So it was huge. So if you're doing this when it's close to where you can plant these out, you can just keep these at 50, 55 degrees for a couple of weeks and then put them straight in the ground after they've pre-sprouted. Basically, you're just getting a little bit ahead of the game by pre-sprouting them before you can put them out. Like this, I want to split this one too. It's massive. You can see like just a different root balls. I don't know if this is a good thing to do or not. Right, I'm not splitting it. So after I cover these up, I'm just gonna let them sit for 2 weeks. See, this one's so big that it's there, that one. I had to find one with less soil in the bottom. So I'm just gonna let them sit. Like, what is this? This is massive. This thing is huge. I really feel like, I think it benefits it to split it. Now look, it's like a normal size. Let's check in with Erin and Tabitha to see where they are in the process.
So I let them hang out there for about 10 to 14 days. I would say like day 12, I check on it. You want to make sure that it's moist, right? You don't want it to dry out, but you certainly don't want it too wet. I check on them and they're usually ready to go. You'll see that they have like white roots on them. And at that point, I take them up, I bring them upstairs, and I put them in my garage where I have like some light fixtures already set up. That's kind of where we do all the pre-prepping and sowing of all of our seeds. I don't have a greenhouse or a propagation greenhouse that I do that in. I do it in my garage, believe it or not. So when they are ready to be pre-sprouted, I put them up under the lights and they're actually going to look like this. So these have been hanging out for maybe a week and a half, I think. Maybe a little bit longer, but not too much longer. And what I'm gonna do now is I'm going to take those guys and I'm going to put them in crates. And I can fit about 24 corms per crate. Yes, it is a more expensive way to do it. Typically you would put them in the field, but I'm not ready to do that yet. I have a small tunnel. It's only about 40 feet long, but I don't have the plastic up. So there's lots of snow and work that has to be done yet. So I wanted to get a jump start on these guys and have some blooms for Mother's Day. So they're gonna go in a crate, a couple hundred of them. I'm probably gonna have, you know, a number of crates, and I'm gonna stick them on my side porch, which is covered, has lots of windows, and it's unheated. So it's literally right here, right off of my kitchen. So it's super convenient. I don't have to worry about covering them in, like, say, a low tunnel or caterpillar tunnel, any of that stuff, because we have high winds in my area. And they're gonna hang out there. The temperature is, I've been testing it, it's around 30 to 35, sometimes in the high 20s, but actually it's perfect temperature for ranunculus. So I'm gonna put them in there until I'm able to get them outside. So then in the next 2 weeks, I'm going to go through the process again for the balance of my corms, which is a good lump of them, right? The majority of them I've not started yet, but I will in the next 2 weeks, and I'll go through that same process. And then those, when I am ready, those will actually go in my tunnel or in the field, whichever we decide, depending on the weather. So yeah, hopefully some of this stuff was helpful, and good luck. And believe me, once you start doing ranunculus, you won't stop. They are well worth any trouble that you go through.
I will get the bottom tray of a cell tray, the part that holds water, and fill that up with a couple inches of seed starting soil. I get that moist, about like a wrung out sponge. And after the 4 hours is up, I just place the corms right in the trays. You can put them pretty close together because they won't be in the trays for very long. And then just sprinkle some soil on top of them to keep them from drying out. And then I put them down the basement for 2 weeks. And the basement stays about 55 degrees, so it's a great temperature for them. In the past, when I didn't have a basement, I just put them in a spare bedroom and turned the heat off in that room, and it worked really well. So after about a week of being in the basement, you'll start to see little white nubs and maybe a little bit of roots coming. And then at the end of the 2 weeks, the roots are pretty visible. If you leave them down there for another week or so, you'll start to see the green shoots coming up too. But generally after the 2 weeks is up, I plant them directly out into the garden. Good luck to you. They're just an amazing flower, and I honestly think they're extremely easy to grow. They seem daunting at first, but they want to grow. They kind of can make it through anything as long as it doesn't get too hot, and they'll produce some really awesome blooms for you. All right, thanks guys.
So now I have all 24 of the corms in their little homes. Now I'm gonna cover them with soil and label them, because gosh knows that I'll screw something up if I don't. Now that I have these two 12 packs all ready to go, I'm just gonna set them on the very top of my shelving unit, right here. Like, they don't need light or anything like that for the first couple of weeks, so I'm gonna let them sit there, and then I'll be surprised when I reach up and get them down. So now I'm gonna do the 72 plug tray. Now I am taking I forgot to label the other ones. Butterfly, I'm just transferring the little butterfly. There, it's labeled. All right, so I got these babies, just shoving them in. So something fun is at the end of the season, you can pull up your corms, cut off the stems, and you can just store them until the next season. I think Erin said that she just stored hers in her dry garage, hanging up in like a mesh bag or something, and she was able to use them. So maybe eventually, if you keep saving your corms, then you won't have to buy fresh ranunculus corms every year. Who knows? Some say that the saved corms don't grow back as strong as the ones that you buy fresh, but maybe that depends on the method of storage. Maybe some are too dry or too moist. So, ooh, this is a big fat fatty. Look at that one. That's so cute. Lots of flowers. So excited. Ooh, this one needs more dirt. I'm stealing from one hole. 2. There. Hello. So Erin has a hoop house this year for the very first time. So she did this weeks ago, like a month ago, she did this. So she actually has her little plugs outside already, which is crazy because we are living in, you know, the frosty north, but she is giving it a go. She's found them to be much hardier than the internet says that they are. So I'm excited to see what she ends up doing and when she ends up getting her first blooms, because she's a little bit warmer than I am. She's 5A, but that's not too much warmer than me. It needs a little more dirt. I love the flower community and just sharing the knowledge and just teaming up for all these things, and we're kind of like little cheerleaders for each other, and that's something I think is important to have. You know, you don't see the local farmers fighting, the local dairy farmers. You don't see the veggie producers saying, I'm growing vegetables here, how dare you? And I feel like it needs to be that way in the flower community as well, especially as more people get into doing this, because there are a lot more people who are saying, I think I kind of want to do that. So it's definitely good to be a welcoming neighbor instead of a neighbor who immediately just sees competition, because there are so many flowers in this country that are shipped in from outside of the country that there's a lot of room here for more people to grow flowers. So I have the other 3 batches in the water. They're soaking right now. Later on tonight, it's only early afternoon, we just had lunch. So later this evening, I'll take those out, do the same thing. Then I'll have all 5 varieties of my ranunculus ready to go, and I'm fingers crossed. They're about a 90-day crop, and I'm not gonna be watering them during those 2 weeks. I'm just gonna let them sit. I might start to give them a little bit of water if they start to dry out after those 2 weeks, because these will not go out to the actual field until the middle of March at the earliest. I love the sound of running water. I told Brad I'm gonna install a water fountain wall. Waterfall wall? A waterfall wall in the kitchen. He wasn't opposed to it, but he was worried about what the animals would do. Some of the ones that are soaking right now, I will end up doing in crates, and they can go, they can bloom right in those crates. So my garage actually gets down into the 30s at night, which is actually a really good temperature for those ranunculus, like we've talked about throughout this video. So they like the cold. I know I'm forgetting to mention a whole bunch of things in this video, and you guys are gonna riddle me with questions. I'm trying to rack my brain over what else I could tell you about these, but they're a 90-day crop. They like the cold. They are hardy in zones 8 through 10, but with some mulch and stuff, you might get away with it in 7 and 6. And Erin in zone 5 is going to attempt it this year as a fall crop with just a little bit of extra mulch inside of her hoop house. So those season extenders could get you earlier blooms and just a better bloom overall, because you're growing them in the conditions that they thrive in. So fingers crossed for Erin, because I'm really hoping to get my hands on a hoop house this year, and maybe I'll be able to experiment a little bit like that. One of the questions in the After the Frost Flower Farmer series to the 4 of us girls was, what is your favorite flower? And 3 of us answered Lisianthus, and Erin was like, ranunculus all day long. She absolutely loves them, and I think it's gonna be one of those things for me that once I successfully grow them, they're gonna be right up there with Lisianthus. I just feel they have that romantic, multiple layers of just edible gorgeousness. They're not edible. 3rd time's the charm. We'll see. I'm really hopeful that I get a bloom this year. I can't stop yawning. So stay tuned for ranunculus updates, and I'm sure I'll be answering questions in the comments, because I can't think of what else I should be telling you guys about these, other than they're amazing and you should try to grow them too. See ya. Oh yeah, don't forget, I'm giving away one of those garden markers. Comment below. I can tell where it slept. It slept on top of the chicken food because there's little poops in there. He pooped all over. He pooped all over my chicken's food. America! Just kidding.
Yes.
What's up?
I was gonna ask if I can play a bit of Minecraft with Alicia.
Oh, I'm not sure.
And Dad's asleep.
You have half an hour to play.
Okay.
Who's your favorite mom?
I guess you, because you're my only mom.
Run! Run for your life! Thank you! Bless me.